I'm actually JFDM here. So, group just played the first session of Draw Steel, the MCDM TTRPG. And this is a redux on how that first session went. They started in the sitting room of the Baron of Anovia, which is a barony in Vasloria that I just drew onto the map out of the way of like Tor and Bedegar and all them, so I just wanted to be sort of a little isolated, at least at the start. I was following, again, the document that Matt Colville started in his Brainstorming a Low-Level Adventure. He's done 2 streams on that. This follows what he laid out in that, which is family of Carters has disappeared. A pair of coursers noticed that they hadn't come back like they usually would have, and so went after them, and the captain of the guard is friends with them and noticed that they didn't come back and reported it to the Baron. The Baron then sent 6 men-at-arms and a knight of the barony to investigate with the explicit orders to see if there's anything weird, and if you find anything weird, come back. So they should have come back, but then they didn't. So now the specialists are called in, the heroes. They conversed with the Baron. I did the little ploy that Matt suggested with having like another hero there who's like nopes out, like, I don't want to split it this many ways. They want to send us to certain death, people are just disappearing, like, this is ridiculous. They didn't really interact with that particular NPC, just sort of let him storm off and walk out. That's fine. Maybe he'll come back later, maybe he won't. Then they headed out on their way and chatted with an NPC who was traveling up the road another direction. I chose to make this a polder priest that presents as a priest of the Iron Saint Ajax, because that's the only type that there should be in Vasloria, but secretly is still an adherent of Solarna, which is a nature deity, among other domains. Being there are 2 polders in the group. She's a cousin, like a distant cousin of one of them. Like, I think I went with your father's brother-in-law's sister-in-law's sister, something like that. That might not be the correct genealogy that I just spouted out there, but it's something like that, like very far over, and had seen the Polder Troubadour in show a couple of times. There's also a conduit in the group who, being a conduit, being priestly, has to hide their devotion. So the group did suss out that this particular character was not actually a like hardline Ajaxer, as it were. So they got to some real conversation, which was nice. The revenant of the group is a former agent of Ajax who was betrayed. There was a little bit of tension when this Polder NPC said, people like you came to destroy my shrine and temple and make us bend the knee. But they had a nice little moment where he was like, oh, well, that is not what I want anymore. I want to see that happen to Ajax, and she was happy about that. So some good dialogue, some good role play. They're really getting into it with the role playing with each other. It's sort of a disparate group, not like my typical group. Some of the people know each other, others don't. There's one person who I've never DM'd before. The others I've DM'd for at least once. A couple of them have been in my 5-year game, so it's a wide range there, so it's good that they were all sort of riffing off each other and really getting into the flow of it. Anyway, so they talk to this NPC, they continue on their way, and they found a spot in the grass just outside of the town they're trying to get to where there are cart tracks, like to suggest evidence of the Carter and his family here, and they see shadows facing the opposite direction of their shadows from an invisible sun. So they sit there, they're talking about it, deciding what it could be. The Time Raider, being of another plane, wants to see if this is something that he would be familiar with, and rolls really well, gets a tier 3 result, and so he gets a little insight into the fact that this is probably some manifold blending, and other manifolds have their own, celestial bodies, suns, moons, etc. So it is possible that what is making these shadows is an invisible sun. Though he didn't follow up on that or anything, so they didn't necessarily get too much additional information there, but enough to get a little inkling. So they continue on further. They find the copse of trees, where there's these 6 almost statue-like humanoid figures. As they get closer and closer, they see that there's no metal, no flesh, no bone, no leather. they're made entirely of bark and leaves and thorns and vines, and they're in like these battle poses. They're pointing, like you can see it on their faces that they're like in a battle. And that is where we ended for the night. So I do want to just go through a couple of other little things. We were lucky enough to find a really great tool called Forge Steel, which is actually an online character creator. Props to the person who whipped that up, who made that. Really glad to have found it. A lot the players, I sort of linked it, 10 minutes before the session, and the players had characters made in it super fast. They said it was really intuitive, really easy to use, so I'll put a link to it down below. Definitely check that out if you're going to be playing Draw Steel. Forge Steel will do. There is an extension very similar to the Beyond 20 D&D Beyond type thing to make it roll. One of the players figured out how to get that working. I couldn't figure out how to get it working. I don't know if it's a browser thing or what, but that does in theory also work. To just make it so you click on your character sheet and it rolls in Roll20, because Roll20 happens to be what we're using. It's what I'm most familiar with. So I hope to try out the Draw Steel Codex once that's done. They've made some reasonably good progress. They got to roughly where I thought they would be, depending on, they spent a lot of time talking to that Polder NPC who I called Reyna. She initially seemed a little sus, which again, she's presenting as a priest of the Iron Saint, and the Iron Saint, being Ajax, is not well loved by everyone. There was definitely a little contention there with like, okay, who's this person? Is this the setup? Is this where we get attacked? Right? The natural paranoia of players was taken over real hard. But they found some clues. One of the characters sort of snuck away from the fire and checked out her horse and found her different holy symbol for Salerna. Broke down the barriers from there. So that was really good. It could have ended very differently, given that it started off with them almost seeming like they were going to attack her. So I'm glad they curbed those desires and really got to chatting. What to look forward to for the next session is, as they investigate these thorn statues, a thorn dragon is going to attack. So we'll see if they see or hear it coming. I say it's going to attack. It's only going to attack if they get real close and fully investigate these things. If they keep their distance and then leave, then that's that. One of the characters is pretty close, so thinking there might be a dragon fight, which is pretty cool. That'll be the first combat, fighting a dragon. That's Draw Steel, I guess. It's very heroic. I have the Thorn Dragon, which is actually a solo 2. So I have a version of it that I wrote up, which you definitely can't see there. That is a solo 1. So I basically just went into the monster compendium, found a different solo 1, and then just brought the damage levels and things like that, and the HP levels and whatnot down to sort of be similar, so that it should hopefully be a better approximation of a solo 1 as opposed to a solo 2. Yeah, after the session, everyone was in good spirits. They all seemed very happy with how it was going. They seemed to like the characters, the dynamic of the characters, and they were intrigued by the mystery of the shadows with no visible source. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Until next time, I'm actually JFDM. We'll see you next time.